Today we're exploring one of nature's most amazing stories, the incredible life cycle of the monarch butterfly. I'm going to take you all the way from the tiny little egg on the milkweed leaf all the way through the 3,000-mile migration journey. Plus, I'm going to share with you what you can do in your garden to help these amazing creatures through every phase of their journey. Whether you're already growing milkweed or you're just interested in these beautiful creatures, understanding their life cycle might change the way that you garden for all pollinators. Because once you understand what they need at each stage, you can plan a garden that feeds them from egg to migration. Hi, I'm Carol from Almost 2 Acres. Let's start at the beginning.
It all starts with an egg about the size of a pinhead. When a female monarch is ready to lay eggs, she's incredibly picky. She only lays them on milkweed plants, and I mean only milkweed. She won't lay on any other plant because milkweed is the only thing monarch caterpillars can eat. Here's an interesting fact. She doesn't just plop all her eggs on one plant. She'll lay a single egg on the underside of a milkweed leaf, then move on to another plant. She'll do this hundreds of times, spreading her eggs across multiple plants. This is actually a survival strategy. If she puts all her eggs in one place and a predator finds them, she'll lose everything. The egg itself is creamy white or pale green, shaped like a tiny football with ridges running lengthwise. If you look closely at your milkweed leaves, and I mean really closely, you might spot them. They're usually on the underside of younger, more tender leaves. This egg stage lasts about 3 to 5 days depending on temperature. Warmer weather means faster development. Inside that tiny egg, a caterpillar is forming, and when it's ready to hatch, it chews its way out. And the first thing it does, it eats its own eggshell. That eggshell is packed with nutrients, and nothing goes to waste in nature. Now we're at what most people think of when they picture the monarch life cycle, those distinctive black, white, and yellow striped caterpillars. This is the larva stage, and it's all about one thing: eating. When that caterpillar first hatches, it's tiny, maybe 2 millimeters long, but over the next 9 to 14 days, it's going to increase its body mass by about 2,000 times. Think of that for a second. It's like a 7-pound baby growing to weigh 14,000 pounds in 2 weeks. That's why you'll sometimes hear people say that monarch caterpillars can defoliate a milkweed plant because they're eating machines. The caterpillar goes through 5 distinct stages called instars. Between each instar, it molts, meaning it sheds its skin because it's literally outgrowing it. After each molt, it eats the old skin. Again, nothing wasted. Here's something really important to understand. While the caterpillar is eating all that milkweed, it's also consuming the toxic compounds in the plant called cardiac glycosides. These toxins don't hurt the caterpillar, but they make it poisonous to predators. Those bright stripes, they're a warning sign that says, "Don't eat me, I'm toxic." And that protection stays with the butterfly through its entire adult life. If you're growing milkweed, this is when you might panic seeing your plants getting munched. But remember, this is exactly what we want. A defoliated milkweed plant will grow back. A healthy milkweed patch can support multiple caterpillars, and that's the whole point of planting it. After about 2 weeks of nonstop eating, the caterpillar reaches its final size, around 2 inches long. Now it's time for one of nature's most incredible transformations. The caterpillar will leave the milkweed plant and find a safe spot to form its chrysalis. This might be on a nearby fence, under a deck rail, on the side of your house, or even hanging from a different plant. It needs a sheltered spot where it can hang undisturbed. First, it spins a small silk pad and attaches itself upside down in a J shape. This is called the prepupal stage, and it lasts about a day. Then, the caterpillar sheds its skin one final time, and underneath is the chrysalis, that beautiful jade green protective casing with tiny gold dots. Here's what never ceases to amaze me. Inside that chrysalis, the caterpillar essentially dissolves into a cellular soup. Almost all of its body structures break down and then reorganize into a completely different creature. It's not just growing wings, it's fundamentally transforming everything about its body structure. This process is called histolysis and histogenesis, and it takes about 10 to 14 days. As the butterfly develops inside, the chrysalis becomes transparent and you can actually see the orange and black wing pattern through it. When you see that, emergence is usually within 24 hours. When the adult butterfly is ready to emerge, the chrysalis splits open and the butterfly pulls itself out. But it doesn't look ready to fly yet. Its wings are small, wet, and crumpled. For the next few hours, the butterfly hangs there while fluid pumps from its body into the wing veins, expanding the wings to their full size. Once they're fully expanded, it has to wait for them to dry and harden before it can fly. This whole process takes about 2 to 4 hours, and the butterfly is extremely vulnerable during this time. This is where the generations get interesting. During the spring and summer, adult monarchs live about 2 to 5 weeks. Their job is to feed on nectar, mate, and lay eggs for the next generation. If you're seeing monarchs in your garden from late spring through midsummer, these are the reproductive generations, generations 1, 2, and maybe 3. But then something remarkable happens with the final generation of the year. Monarchs that emerge in late summer and early fall are fundamentally different. Something about the shorter days and cooler temperature triggers a change. Instead of being ready to mate immediately, these butterflies enter reproductive diapause, meaning their reproductive system doesn't mature. Instead, all their energy goes into building up fat reserves. They feed heavily on nectar from fall flowers, storing energy for an incredible journey. These are the monarchs that will migrate up to 3,000 miles from the northern United States and southern Canada all the way to the Oyamel fir forests in central Mexico. And here's what's so absolutely amazing. These butterflies have never made this journey before. Their parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents were the spring and summer generations that lived just a few weeks. But somehow, through genetic programming that scientists still don't fully understand, these butterflies know exactly where to go. They travel up to 100 miles per day, riding air currents, navigating by the sun's position and the Earth's magnetic field. When they reach those specific mountain forests in Mexico, millions of them cluster together on the trees, so many that branches sometimes break under their weight. They spend the winter there in a kind of semi-dormant state, staying relatively inactive to conserve energy. Then, as days lengthen in late winter, their reproductive systems mature. They mate, and in early spring, they begin the journey north. But most of them don't make it all the way back. They make it to the southern United States, lay their eggs on milkweed, and die. It's their offspring, the next generation, that continues north to complete the cycle. So now that you understand this whole incredible cycle, let's talk about what you can actually do to support monarchs at every stage. First and most important, plant milkweed, native milkweed species for your region. Here in my zone, that means common milkweed, swamp milkweed, and butterfly weed. Don't use tropical milkweed in areas where monarchs migrate. It can disrupt their migration timing. And absolutely never use milkweed that's been treated with neonicotinoid pesticides, which can kill caterpillars. Second, plant nectar sources that bloom throughout the season, but especially in late summer and fall. That migration generation needs to build up serious fat reserves. Native asters, goldenrod, Joe pieweed, liatris, coneflowers, zinnias, these are all excellent choices. Third, avoid pesticides, even organic ones. Those caterpillars eating your milkweed are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And Bt, which is organic, will kill monarch caterpillars along with other butterfly and moth caterpillars. Fourth, if you're in a migration corridor, understand that you might not see eggs and caterpillars in fall. Those fall monarchs aren't stopping to reproduce. They're fueling up and passing through. That's okay. You're still helping by providing nectar. And finally, leave some areas a little wild. Those pupating caterpillars need safe places to form their chrysalises. A messy fence line, tall grass that doesn't get mowed down, plants near your foundation. These all provide pupation sites.
The monarch butterfly life cycle is one of the most awesome natural phenomena that's happening in our own backyards. From a tiny egg to a butterfly that weighs less than a gram but travels thousands of miles, every stage is worth protecting. Please take this minute to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on my channel. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it really helps my channel grow. Until next time, let's think about those gorgeous butterflies we'll be seeing next summer. And then, let's get growing.